Are you looking to get ready, be prepared, and transform your financial future? Then you've come to the right place. This is the Get Ready Money podcast with Tony Stewart, where Tony has insightful conversations with financial experts who are changing the way we think about money. Catch up on the latest financial trends and hear practical advice from Tony and his expert guests so you can build healthy habits that work. Be empowered with tips for implementing small changes that can have a big impact on your financial future. So sit back and get ready to hear from today's guest.
Welcome to the Get Ready Money podcast, changing the way we think about money. I'm pleased to be joined today by Kat Walsh, who is the Chief Legacy Officer, and Philip Adu, the founder of the Center for Research Methods Consulting. In this episode, we'll be discussing their thoughts on how we change the way we think about money and legacy planning. Kat and Philip, welcome to the Get Ready Money podcast.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Excited to get into this conversation. So, as I start out with all of my guests, tell us a little bit about yourself. What is your origin story? Kat, do you want to jump in?
Sure, yeah. So I'll just start with my superpower. My superpower is that I'm so lucky. Probably the luckiest person you'll ever meet, and good things just happen to me. And in this particular case, Tony, you're one of those good things. I feel really lucky that I met you and gave great advice and tips on my business. And I really appreciate being on this podcast because I think I might have an opportunity to hear from some of your listeners and try and understand the ways in which I can help them even a little bit more. I hope that they find this helpful. Maybe something that their clients need that their clients didn't even know they needed. So that's my hope. So thank you for having me. I'm super happy to be here. And Phil is amazing. He's helped me a lot with all the qualitative data analytics that I do with my business. It's going to be a really, really fun day. So thank you so much. So back to your question, origin. So I grew up in this really magical family. My parents were explorers, adventuresome people. Every year we spent 3 or 4 months living on a boat in Southeast Alaska, just kind of exploring the bush and looking at animals. And one of the things that I learned that I really, really love are cultures. Being in Alaska so much, I'm enamored by Indigenous, First Nation, and really just cultures in general and people that live their authentic life. There's a lot of people in Alaska that live a very authentic life to who they are. And it really taught me a lot. So moving forward, I'm the first generation college graduate in my family. And with that, my parents didn't know how to advise me on where to go, what degree to get, a career path. So but what they did give me, I kind of bumbled around a little bit, but what they did give me was this ability to take risk. They were very, as I said, they were explorers. And so they never squashed my ability to go out and try and do something new. And it's served me very well. My father on his deathbed said that I should not be afraid to fail. And it served me a lot. It's amazing. So I've started a couple of businesses. The first one was the first mail order subscription model meal kit back in 1993. It was a long time ago. It's hard to say, by the way, subscription. And I had the first yoga as part of an employee benefits package business. And now I'm kind of in a business that's quite new as well. There are a couple of us out there. I don't know that we all do exactly the same thing. A lot of definitions for this role. But what I do, I'm the Chief Legacy Officer for a very successful founder. And if you think of my business in 3 parts, one part is his legacy. So he's the champion of the family, and I work on his legacy, making sure that he's remembered and doing the things that he needs to do to be remembered in the way that he wants to be remembered by his family and anybody else in his chosen community. The second piece is It's a family piece. So it's really understanding and defining what the family's mission is. So whether the champion of the family may be really interested in technology, but the grandkids are not. So if the family mission and the family purpose is not aligned, then the legacy doesn't live on. And then the third piece is really where my heart lies, and that's in helping generation 2, 3, and 4 help define their purposes in life, which ultimately leads to them creating their own legacy. Because at the end of the day, they don't want to say, when they walk into a room, they don't want to say, oh, I'm so-and-so's granddaughter. They want to have their own voice, their own legacy. They want to get out from behind the shadows. So that's my story.
That's awesome. So many learnings in there. I definitely want to actually really get into the authentic life, especially as we go on the podcast. Philip, what's your origin story?
Yes, so my origin story, it starts from Ghana, West Africa. I did my first degree in psychology, and then I wanted to, further my education. I want to reach a stage where I want to have a great impact in people's lives. So I got the opportunity to get admission to one of the universities in the US, Ohio University, and I did international development as my master's degree. And immediately after that, I got another opportunity to go to West Virginia University to do my PhD in education. And then the third opportunity is also being a methodology expert at the Chicago School of Professional Psychology for 10 years. And at that time, I developed a passion of breaking down research, especially when, students are doing qualitative research. They are thinking about how to collect data, how to analyze, how to present the finding. So I realized that there's a need for me to really break things down so that qualitative research will be easy for students to do and also enjoyable. So I really enjoy working with this institution for 10 years. And after that, I realized that I want to go beyond just focusing on students, right? And also because at that time I was doing a lot of YouTube videos and I received a lot of commendation from people watching my videos. And so I just, realized that, okay, can I do my own thing, right? So I set up a business, which is the Center for Research Method Consulting, doing the same thing, but in a wider way, while focusing on researchers, students, practitioners, trying to help them to do their qualitative research and also analyze. And then now I'm doing consultations and I've written 3 books. And also, lastly, I do a lot of presentation workshop for organizations. And during that time also, I had opportunity to meet Kat, and based on what she wants to do, we realized that, our missions are similar and I'll be able to also help to accomplish her goal of, helping families to identify their legacy and also maintain those legacies so that it will exist for a long time, right? And so I'm focusing on analyzing the data that she'll be collecting, and then we make sense of that data, and then we move on and help families. So this is my story.
Well, and I think that's super interesting because I think that's something everybody thinks about is, what is their legacy? But how do you actually define it and take care of it? And it does go beyond money. There's so much more to it. Money is just a part of the conversation. So, Kat, the first question is for you. How can we help future generations live a deliberate life in pursuit of their purposes in life?
Yeah, so I've never met a parent yet. They must be out there, but I've never met a parent yet that didn't say that they wanted their kids to be happy, healthy, and successful. And those are the 3 words that I hear the most. And so the big question is, how do we help our loved ones do that? And so the first step in doing that is going to somebody like you who helps them with the financial plans, right? The estate plan, the wealth management plan, ensure that they are financially secure. and that, their grandkids and the great grandkids are financially secure. And what you're really doing when you do that is you're liberating them, you're freeing them of this burden that so many people live with, that they're not going to make ends meet, or they're not going to be okay for retirement. So the gift that you're giving them is really incredible. And what that does for me, if I come in at step 2, is it enables us to forget that piece of it and to focus on all of the things that are non-tangible and non-financial. How do we leverage all of those heirlooms, all of those beautiful gifts that a family has to give each other that are not accounted for in the work that you do? And so I work very hard to try and really understand what drives these people, what is their passion, what brings them so much joy. And we create a purpose plan. You mentioned the plan. We create a purpose plan that helps them live a deliberate life. So they need to be making sure that the decisions that they're making, the places that they're living, the classes, the growth that they're getting is in alignment with what they say their purpose is. Ultimately, what that does, when you have a very, very focused way of looking at your life, you ultimately get to your own individual legacy. If you think of people, there's a million examples, but if you think of Greta Thunberg, so she really had very little to lose. She was a young girl, very little to lose. She figured out that she likes climate health, and she's been focused on that. And she's actually created a legacy for herself at a very young age. So the point is, you may have to do a little bit of work to stumble upon what it is that you really want to do with your life, but you shouldn't give up because it's difficult. Because if you don't have a plan, you're just going to, people say all the time, the days go by so fast. I can't believe it's a year has gone by. And it's very true. And if you don't take control, you're just going to be tossed right into the middle of this tornado of life, and it's going to spit you out wherever it spits you out. And that's your life. That's it. So, if you want to, at the end of your day, I live on reducing regrets. So at the end of my life, I don't want to have regrets that I didn't take a risk and didn't try something. So that's kind of the overarching view. And the thing that's really interesting, you were talking to Phil about qualitative data analytics. It feels at first glance that there couldn't be 3 more different areas than financial planning, what you do, what I do, which is the warm and fuzzy stuff, and what Phil does, which is data analytics. And it's been amazing to see how they intertwine and the synergies that there are among all 3. It's really super exciting and super cool. Phil's doing some pretty amazing things to help enable this work that I do.
Well, that's fantastic. And I think, wrapping the money part to your work is what's important, because people should be using money as a tool to take care of what you're talking about. And I think that's sometimes people forget, is that the money on its own is not really worth anything. Mm-hmm. It's a tool to get you to a certain point. So Philip, let's get to you and talk a little bit about what you're doing. In what ways does qualitative research play a critical role in comprehending the needs, well-being, and legacies of family?
Yes, qualitative research is all about, trying as much as possible to have like a research question and then collecting data that will help you to address the question, right? So in this way, your qualitative data will help to create a conducive environment for participants or clients to share their views, their fears, their anxiety and experiences, and also their aspirations, right? So that, you'll be able to collect rich information from them. And then when you collect rich information from them, you'll be able to make sense in a systematic manner. So it also helps us to move from client-based support to more of, move from expert-based support to more of client-based, where you involve them in the process. After you have analyzed the data, you meet them, and also we call it member check-in. checking with them and finding out, okay, this is what I found. What are your thoughts? Based on that, you work with them to come up with an action plan that will help them to improve their lives and their family. So qualitative research it gives makes the plan the personal plan that we want to do for each of the family members more systematic because it's based on data and the data that have been collected in a very conducive environment so that you'll be able to reach a stage where they can move forward with their lives. So it's a very good way of making sense of their experience and at the same time helping them to identify their personal goals and also purpose in life.
Can I?
Fantastic. Oh, yes.
Do you mind, Tony, if I give a quick example of how this?
Oh, yes, please.
So I did a survey for a very large family, meaning I did the interviews and spoke to all the family members and did surveys and gathered lots of information. And so one of the girls in this family is about, I think maybe 25 years old. She already has children. It's an extremely conservative family, very conservative family, very, very religious family. And the majority of her life is spent in caring for the kids. And she also, incidentally, it's not a part of the story, but it's how her focus is right now on, she's got cancer. So she is dealing with chemotherapy and things like that. So here we have this very, very religious mother that is distracted by her chemotherapy. And I do all this work with her for a year. I do this work with her. And in my mind, I think, okay, she is really a loving mom and she cares so much about family and future means everything to her. And I had this whole thing worked out in my head. And Phil came along and he put her information into his system, into his brain and his system. And it came back that she should be a data analytics researcher. So I went back to the family and I said, you're not going to believe this. This girl should be a data analyst. And they said, yeah, she is. And yes. I would have never gotten to that conclusion. And that's exactly what she does. None of the answers look like data analytics.
Yes, and it's so powerful how you start with assessing the needs of the family. And also after you got in some information, you go back and present that information to the family and find out what they think. And then you see how it's consistent with what they want to do. And it's so how powerful that involving them in the process will increase the probability for them to do the actions that we recommend for them. So it's more about back and forth, informing them at each stage and also helping them to come up, working with them closely to come up with actions that need to be taken to help build a family and also maintain their legacy.
Fantastic. So Philip, let's back up a minute, for the audience, because most people don't know what qualitative data is. So for a typical, husband and wife, 2 kids, let's say the nuclear family, what is qualitative data and how could they actually use it with their estate planning?
So qualitative data is, think about it as words. They are not numbers like quantitative, right? So you are collecting words from them. You are collecting their stories. You are collecting their feelings, emotions. And how do we do that? We do that in 2 main ways. You can give them open-ended survey for them to respond to the questions and then you analyze, or you can meet them one-on-one and have conversation with them, or as a group for them to share their ideas in a way that is non-judgmental manner. And as you are interviewing them, you make sure that you ask one question at a time. You have to make sure that you give them the time to express themselves and then make sure you are not judging the information that they are giving to you. You are there to receive. We call it naively receiving the information so that you can get rich information from participants and make sense of that information. So when we receive that information, we analyze based on the questions, or we call it research question, or the goals, and then we come up with the findings and go back to participants and present the findings to them. So that's how the process is.
Yeah, well, I find it fascinating because that really should be part of any planning process. It does make a lot of sense because this is what people are really after, and I think it's oftentimes missed in the personal finance field. Is people, if you're talking about your legacy, they want their family to be taken care of. And Kat, as you talked about, is they are concerned with how they are going to be remembered. They're not so concerned about, like, do I have a grantor trust, that's, a leaky grantor trust? That's not what they're concerned with. So I think what both of you are talking about is really an essential way of looking at the estate planning process, or just the financial planning process in general. So it's fascinating stuff.
Yeah, it's a supplement. I definitely think that at the end of the day, what you're doing is so important. All of the planning that you do is so important. And we couldn't get them to the place where we do if they weren't secure in knowing that, it's a terrible feeling to not know if you're going to be able to pay the rent. However, I will say people immediately assume that legacy means money or fame, and it doesn't. So, same way that what you do, really everybody, in fact, it could be that it's the reverse, right? The less money you have, the more you should be planning. And so it could be the reverse as well, that if you don't come from a family of a legacy, then it's time for you to start thinking, okay, how do we really want to be remembered in this world? What impact are we going to have? How are we going to leave this world and make sure that our loved ones are proud?
I love that. I got to write that down. But I think that's important, is that this is for everyone. And I think, sometimes people do think, in estate planning included, is like, well, this is only for the wealthy. But everybody is going to leave a legacy. And that is so important to recognize that. So, let's get ready into the get ready questions. Kat, if you want to start off, what basic money concept do you wish people knew?
What basic money concept? I would say two parts. I would say plan, which is my headline for what I do too. Don't jump into that tornado. You got to plan for your money in the same way that I think that you should plan for your future. And the other is that I just want people to remember that is only one of their assets. There are so many non-tangible, non-financial assets that they have to share with their loved ones. And a lot of times people say, I gave them advice. Well, advice is very fleeting, and it's usually time-stamped. So what I'm talking about is planning for your legacy in the same way that you plan for your finances, and have a plan. Have a plan.
Well, that's fantastic. Well, Philip, how about you? What basic money concept do you wish people knew?
Yeah, it's similar to what Kat said, having a plan and also take action, right? So you plan for your year concerning your finances and income coming, expenses coming, we call it budgeting, and also monitoring, because, as time goes on, things change, the markets change and other things. So you always have to plan, you take action based on the plan, and also monitor. We call it evaluation or assessment in research. And then, because you always have to see whether you are on the right track. When it gets to the middle of the year, ask yourself, so this one was my plan. Am I going in line? Is the activities or the action that I'm taking journey towards my goal at the end of the year, so that you can make some changes in the middle, so that you'll be able to accomplish, because things change, the economy change, the world market change. Maybe you may lose your job, right? So do you have emergency money there? And all these things, is emergency money enough for you? You always have to think about it enough because the inflation rate might go up. So taking action when you plan and also monitoring, these are the three things that you have to, the basic thing that you have to do in terms of money.
Well, that's fantastic. And I want to highlight that for everyone because that's at the heart of my work as well as the monitoring part. We oftentimes forget about that with our financial services and products, and we put them in a drawer and we don't think about it. But life changes, as you point out, the macro economy may change, the micro economy may change. You're going to have a life event. You get married, you have kids, you lose a job. And so through all of that, that is powerful advice. You have to go back and look at stuff. You can't let it sit there. So, the next question is, what is one simple thing you can do each year to set yourself up for financial success?
So for me, I agree with you so much, both of you, on that last part about, if you don't monitor, you change. It may not be an event. You just change. You learn something new and your opinions can change and your mood can change and everything changes. So what is the one thing you can do? I would say is a lot in the work that I do. There's a lot of self-reflection. So are you thinking about things as important as they are? Are you thinking about them enough? Are you acknowledging when things are not really the way that you want them? Are your relationships in order? And there's just a whole lot of self-reflection that goes into the work I do. And I think in general, that's self-reflection can be applied to most everything you do.
Yeah, 100%. Philip, how about you?
Yeah, I think one thing that you can do is, always be hungry for knowledge, right? Things are changing so fast, especially we are in the AI world, and you have to also think about, yes, people say that, some people are going to lose their job, or maybe there's some people are going to be less efficient and other things. So continuously reflecting and learning more, being a lifelong learner, always learning new things. How can I improve my life? How can I improve my income? What can I do to diversify the way I do my investment? What can I do to make sure that my expenses are down? All these things you have to learn. You can go to YouTube, can buy books. Tony, your book might be very helpful for people. And, always trying to continue to learn and improve. That will be a best way, one of the ways to live a very good life and a successful life for the year.
That's awesome. And, I don't know if either of you follow Charlie Munger, who unfortunately just passed away, but that was his biggest lesson. Warren Buffett's partner in building Berkshire Hathaway is always be learning. That's what he talked about is, reading new books, gaining new knowledge. And this is a man who was, worth $2 billion and 99 years old when he passed away. But, his mission was to learn. And Warren Buffett, apparently is an avid reader. So it's powerful advice that shows in their success is to keep learning.
Yes, and I think for me, personal example is when I heard that AI, is becoming popular, I asked myself, okay, what role will AI play in my profession and my service that I provide to my clients? So I started, I went to YouTube, listened to, people reviewing some of the AI tools and see how I can apply to my studies. One example is that there is, a tool that, somebody can just create a photo, right? In qualitative research, you can ask participants to bring their photos so that they can talk about it and bring out a memory. Imagine that you ask participants, can you use this software to create a photo that reflects maybe the problem your families are going through, or maybe reflect your legacy? And then they bring the photo and have a discussion with you with that photo. You see how AI can play a very good role instead of them looking for a photo that maybe they cannot find. They can create their own thing to reflect the experience and also what they want to leave behind. And then having a conversation with them will be powerful. So it's always good to continue to see what is going on and see how it's going to affect your profession and learn more.
I think that's really powerful. And I think one thing that's parallel to that is the way people learn and communicate. So what you're talking about also is a visual way of transmitting information rather than just, an auditory way of transmitting information. That's great. Yeah, we could probably spend the whole episode talking about AI. So we won't dwell on that anymore for a minute, but definitely throw in more if you have it. So Philip, let's start with you on this one. What is one habit that people can change when it comes to their money?
I think that they have to move from the idea of saving to investment, right? I think that when I grew up, my parents always tell me, you shouldn't spend all your money. You have to save, save, save. But I think that if you save and you don't invest some of them, then because of inflation and other things, the money will not multiply. It should still be there, right? So I think that, going beyond just saving and trying to use some of the money and, invest in stock or in business and other things will be very helpful for you. So that at the end of the day, you'll be, financially independent and also bring you some kind of freedom to do whatever you want to do to go further to accomplish your personal goals. So moving from saving to investing, it doesn't have to be big. Sometimes you think investment means that, okay, people who are millionaires, right? But in a small way, you can invest. If you have even $10, $20, you can go, invest in stocks and you can get some returns. Yeah. That's what I.
Well, that's fantastic advice because, you're setting a goal of, let's say, financial independence. That's everybody's goal is financial independence. Some people call it retirement. I do like the term financial independence better because it's so individual what people are looking for. But as you talk about is investing is a tool that's going to help you get there faster. So it's using, another tool and not just staying with one tool. So Kat, how about yourself? What is one habit that people can change when it comes to their money?
I think mine's a lot more pedestrian. I find that people are so impulsive, and they really, really are living outside of their means, and they're trying to turn themselves into something that society tells them is important in the world. So they're buying things that they shouldn't be, which goes back to the investing that Phil's talking about and on and on. But I think the impulses that people respond to so readily is really dangerous. I think it's true in drinking. I think it's true in gambling. I mean, there's plenty of addictions that would align with that, but even just the way you dress and the car you drive and the vacations that you take and the places that you stay when you're on vacations, and we're really we're going outside of our means, and we're being influenced too much by what everybody else is doing.
No, that's powerful advice. I think being intentional with your money is so important. Is that within different things is maybe with our diet is we know we still may not eat what we're supposed to, but we have a really good sense. And, we're more intentional with our physical wellness, usually. Within reason, cheesecake is good every once in a while, but, we're not as intentional, like you say, with our money.
Mostly you should be really wise about what you're doing every day. Mostly, are you managing your money well? Mostly, are you living a happy life? Just mostly. We don't all know about it.
Yeah, I was going to say someday you have to eat your vegetables, whether you like it or not. So, the next question is, Kat, if you want to take this one, is what money myth are you trying to break, or do you think people should break?
I think that people, the younger generation, and I don't know where that younger starts and stops, but I think that there is a big misconception about how easy it is to make money and how much money you should be making right out of school. Phil would be better suited to talk about this because he teaches, but I do a lot of mentoring at a couple of colleges, and I'm asked over and over, how do I find my dream job? And this job is amazing, but it doesn't pay. And I think that we need to slow down a little bit and recognize that those people that do have legacies, Warren Buffett didn't start out where he is. He started out the rest of us. So losing track of what it takes to get to that place where you can live this amazing life and leave a legacy, it's hard work. It's very, it happens overnight and that it lands in your lap like a lottery ticket.
Yeah, I completely agree. Tony,
Oh,
do you
no,
want?
I was just going to say, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, in people, as Kat said, some people they just want a shorter way to accomplish, to get a lot of money, right? They don't know that, the successful people, they take their time, especially one example is like you invest in stocks, right? And then you just realize that this morning the stocks are going down, and then you quickly take all your money out, right? I think quickly take your money out instead of being patient. Have the sense of patience, the sense of determination, and also you have to be very deliberate, right? You have to have a strategy in mind, and I think that's what is really lacking. And I think that sometimes also social media, people don't sometimes tell the whole story. Oh, this job or this work, within 2 days, I was able to get $20,000. And then, you just follow, but they didn't tell you all the things that you have to take into consideration to get to that destination, right? So I think that in life, you have to be very patient. You have to be very deliberate in terms of investing, in terms of your financing and spending and everything, so that you'll be able to accomplish a goal. And I like what, Kate always say about, the fact that, don't be afraid to fail. Failure is part of our lives, right? So the most important thing is that you will learn from your mistakes and then move forward. But, being afraid, you will not take any action, right? And also, last one that I think about is that people all think that investments is all about, having a lot of money to invest. They don't know that you can start small. The reason why you have to start small is that, when you make mistakes, at least you lose a little bit, right? So it's also similar to business. You start small and you make mistakes and learn from it. Imagine that you don't learn from this one and you are being given a huge amount of money, or you are being given a big business to manage. When you make a mistake, it's going to be big, right? So starting small in investment helps you to learn, know the best practices, and then go on. But people think that, oh, you have to wait to get a huge amount of money before you invest. But if you do that and you haven't learned the lesson, what will happen? You may end up losing everything. So,
Yeah, 100%. That's a great point. And it gets back to what you were saying earlier about learning. Learning is the most important thing you can do. So, Philip, let's get out the time machine for a minute. What advice would you give your younger self if you could go back in time knowing what you know now about money?
I would tell my younger self to learn as much as you can about how money works. I think that is, some of the limitations. I say, oh, I should have learned this one, right? After you made a mistake, I say, oh, I should have taken this action, right? So I think that learning as much as money, because if you learn the language of money, if you learn how to do business, if you learn how to invest, life will be very easy for you. You go closer to getting the resources to live a life that will meet the purpose. So yes, keep on. I would have told, my younger self to work hard to learn more about how money works.
Fantastic. That's great advice. Kat, how about you?
Well, I would for sure agree. I would agree with everything that you just said. And the only other thing I would add is that what I would tell my younger self is your younger self is your sensei. I wish that I knew how the little tiny little things were so beautiful and inexpensive and brought me so much joy. I didn't need to spend money on certain things, because if only I had listened to the 2-year-old that was squatting down looking at a spider for a long period of time, I wouldn't be going off doing something else. So those little, I wish the 2-year-olds taught college with you, Phil. I'd take that.
Can you
So,
repeat what
so
you
what else you
said?
were going to say, Kat?
Y-
It felt like you were on the verge of saying something else as well.
Yeah, Kat, I didn't hear the last part that you said about 2-year-old.
I said, I wish that the 2-year-olds were teaching college alongside you. You learn a lot from those little people.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
That's awesome. So, let's. This is the last question. Is Kat, what is your number one tip on changing the way we think about money?
Oh, the number one tip, I think, is to just be very, very thoughtful and methodical and deliberate. It encompasses what Phil's been saying about knowledge. It encompasses what I've been saying about living within your means. Just be deliberate. Just think about it instead of just wandering through life.
That's powerful advice. Think about it before you make a decision.
Mhm.
So Philip, what's your number one tip on changing the way we think about money?
Yeah, I think, money should be like a means to the end, right? It shouldn't be the end. If you make the money the end, this is where the frustration comes in and you continue to amass wealth without any purpose, right? But I think that, if you allow the purpose of your life to dominate the process, you live so very enjoyable life, right? No matter how much you have, right? That's why people say that money cannot make you happy, because it's like there are some people who have amassed wealth, but it's still struggling psychologically. They still don't have the purpose of life. So I think that so the main goal is to allow your purpose to drive the way that you view money and how the money can be like a resource, giving you the freedom to make good choices so that you'll be able to reach the purpose that you want.
Amen. Phil.
Amen. That's a mic drop there, Phil. I'm exactly with you. That's exactly where I'm coming from as well. Is that you have to change that perspective and think about what you want to accomplish, who you are, rather than thinking about, like Bitcoin. I love
Yes.
picking on Bitcoin. So people who listen to this podcast or watch the podcast hear me say that all the time. But, Bitcoin may be good for some people, but that's not where the conversation should start.
Mhm.
Uh, Powerful advice. So, and in the show notes, I am going to put, all the links that you sent me. But, for everybody watching and listening, where can they learn more about each of you? Where's the best social media platform or whatever to follow your work? Kat, you want to go first?
For me, it's LinkedIn, and I very much appreciate that, Tony, because as you know, I'm working on a book, and my website is not live yet because I'm still trying to work out some details on the messaging that will, supplement the book. So for now, it's LinkedIn, and my email is in my contact on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to exchange emails or any way that they want to communicate. I would love if you get any insight or input or feedback on this and how I can help people serve their clients better. I'd love to know that. So please let me know if you hear anything.
Fantastic. And Philip, how can people follow you and what you're up to?
Yes, so LinkedIn the same, at Dr. Philip Edu. And also, if you search even Philip Edu on Google, you can get a lot of my presentation when you go to here. I don't know whether I'm the only person called Philip Edu. I sometimes search myself, okay, what are people looking for? And I see all my videos and also my books there. So you can also go to my YouTube channel. I provide, if you want to get basic understanding of how to do qualitative research, you go to, at Dr. Philip Edu, that will be great. And also X, like I said, Twitter now, you go to at Dr. Philip Edu. Yes, you can also find me. And also my website is www.centerforresearchmethods.com. You can also get a lot of information about my services.
And I'm going
Fantastic. Oh, sorry.
so that all those things are redirected to me, Phil.
Can you repeat what you said? I think the first part didn't come.
Philip Edu, so that all of your information gets redirected over to me. How's that?
That's wonderful, yes.
Well, fantastic. Well, Kat and Philip, thanks very much for joining me on the Get Ready Money podcast today.
Thank you so much.
It's been an amazing conversation. I think we had a little drop there. And thank you, everyone, as always, for tuning in to the Get Ready Money podcast, for listening or watching. Please be sure to subscribe to the Get Ready Money podcast. Until next time,